Good morning to all our beautiful listeners. I hope you guys are having a great week. Happy Monday. It's your boy Gabe.
It's Caleb.
And today you are listening to another episode of the Positive Outlook podcast. And Caleb, what are we talking about today?
So today we're continuing our series. It's a positive outlook series on self, growth, and happiness. So today's episode is going to be all about growth.
Amen. Yeah, so this is part two of the three-part series. And at the end of the third episode, or maybe somewhere in this episode, or maybe somewhere random in the third episode,
Yes.
we're going to do our announcement. So just make sure you stay tuned.
Yes,
okay?
it's the biggest announcement on this show ever.
Yeah,
So
ever.
you got to stay tuned.
Yep.
But what does every great episode start with?
Every great episode starts with a question of the day.
What do you
Yes.
got, Gabe?
Yeah, so absolutely. So my question of the day is, well, it's growth, right?
Oh, yeah.
So keep it very simple. Remember when you copped out for the last question?
Yeah,
of
that's
the
fair.
day?
That's fair. All right.
Yeah. So my question of the day is, if you started a garden
Uh-huh.
and you planted a seed in it today, would you try to reap the benefits or grab your crop by the end of the day today?
Absolutely not.
No, why not?
Because obviously it's still a seed and it needs time to grow and it needs time to be nurtured. It needs time to it needs time for you to cultivate it up from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
What
Awesome.
about you?
No, absolutely. You're right. I don't think we really need to explain further than
Yeah.
that, right?
Truly.
You're not going to plant a seed today and be like, all right, I'm going to go get my strawberries in the afternoon,
And that's a great little perspective shift. Anytime you start something new, try to stick to that. But let's get into the episode here.
Let's
I have
do
a
it.
bunch of questions written down. And Gabe and I are just going to discuss it like the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
And I could not be more excited.
Yeah, let's do it. So,
Hit that like and subscribe if you're new here, or the follow if you're on Spotify. So let's jump right into it.
okay.
How do we define growth? And I know we've kind of talked about this the last couple episodes, but growth is so important. It never goes anywhere without you.
Right.
And so how do we define growth, would you say?
Yeah. So I think anything that's not stagnant or moving backwards,
Yeah.
right? As easy as that answer sounds to say out loud, really, if something's not challenging you, it's not changing you in the right direction. Right?
Absolutely.
And so, like I always like to say, go out there and fail, right? Because failure is not the opposite of success; it's simply the pathway to it. So, whether you're struggling, whether you're thriving, whatever it may be, make sure you're moving in the proper direction. And growth is just when you, as a person, are learning more about yourself and the people around you, and becoming a better human being.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to focus on the increments of growth because a lot of us expect growth to happen right away. And just like
Mhm.
the seed or just like an investment fund or anything that you have to give it time.
Right.
Time is a big, powerful component of growth. And at the same time can be the biggest enemy of growth if you're not utilizing it correctly.
Absolutely, I know. And some people, I like this quote. It's not really a quote; it's just a saying, right?
Yeah.
That the time will pass anyway. So some
Yes,
people are like,
absolutely.
oh, I'm so scared to get into the gym, just because it's going to take so long. What about eating better? What about growing my relationships? What about trying to find a new career? And then you just look at him and you say, the time's going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
What the hell else were you going to do?
No, exactly. I saw this one thing where it was just a stupid little thing with the same theme on Instagram. It was like a meme, but it was like a comic book strip. And it was like, oh, I want to go off and do this. And then it shows the time passing and he doesn't study for his
Mhm.
schooling. And 4 years later, his buddy comes back and he goes, so did you ever, get moving with that? And he was like, oh, no. And he's like, well, the time passed.
We actually have a TikTok about this.
Yeah, we do. We have a skit. It's an intro to an episode. It's the same concept.
What episode was that?
Person of Action, episode 10.
Awesome. He knows it. Yeah, so if you guys are curious what we're referencing right now, go back to our episode 10 and watch
Yes,
the
it's
intro.
an amazing skit on Spotify. It makes no sense. We didn't really think about that as we uploaded it,
Yeah.
or as I uploaded it to Spotify, because we instead of uploading the audio files, we just upload the video files
Yeah.
and convert them and everything. So, anyways, I really wanted to take some time to talk about painful growth
Mhm.
because a lot of times this is the growth I feel, at least personally, tends to keep me away from where I need to be going.
Yeah.
Because the voice of ordinary or temptation or whatever weakness is inside me gets highlighted around the term uncomfortable growth
Yeah.
in the sense that I have a hard time moving forward when I know there's a long stretch of uncomfortable growth ahead of me.
Yeah.
So how would you say you move through and navigate something, and maybe even what are some examples of painful growth?
Yeah, painful growth. Really, I like to break it down into 3 words, right? Choose your heart. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to put one foot in front of the other and grow. and to face what scares you and to exceed your limits. It's terrifying to go outside of your comfort zone, but it's also hard to stay where you're at, right? And obviously, you're feeling the pressure of growth. You're feeling conviction towards your steps because you know that you need to change.
Yeah.
And the longer you stay the same, the deeper those problems or those issues will root in you. So ultimately, you have to choose your heart and understand that it's going to be hard to move forward. It's going to be hard to stay where you're at. Which one do you want to pick? Easy as that.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of share a message. If you're at a point where right, you're at that point where there's no more denying it, you just kind of have to accept, hey, I'm on my butt, or hey, the situation is not going to the way it planned. There comes that point where it's time to reanalyze your situation and come up
Mm-hmm.
with a new plan, or just to decide to double down on your plan. But either way, you hit a point in your path where you see there's a mountain between you and that other side, and you do not feel ready. You don't feel conditioned, any of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't start climbing, even if it's one step today and then 2 steps tomorrow or a step and a half tomorrow, as long as you push yourself to find that growth, you will overcome this obstacle, and it feels impossible, right? And like you told me, we were just in town yesterday, and you were like, David didn't be King David
Yep.
was given a Goliath. He wasn't just handed a throne.
Right.
And I think that that's important to understand is Goliath is an exaggeration of a problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also real. It is real because it tests everything about you physically, mentally, everything in between. And I just want a disclaimer real quick. That's not me saying the Bible story is exaggerated. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying in today's sense, right? You're not out actually facing a giant,
Right.
but these problems can crush you if you let them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, just to dive a little bit deeper into that, right? So we pray for patience, we pray for happiness, we pray for all of these things. But the thing is, nothing in life is constant, right? This too shall pass.
Yeah.
Everything that comes your way is going to waver. It's fleeting, no matter what. So ultimately, these lessons that are being thrown at you, these challenges are meant for you to learn from. They're meant for you to grow and to become a better person from it. So like you said, when David asked God to be king, he didn't give him a crown, he gave him a Goliath. Because he said you're going to have to face these Goliaths. You're going to have to face problems that might be much bigger than the Goliath. And the
Yeah.
Goliath might seem scary right now, but you're going to tackle it and be like, "All right, give me another Goliath."
Jack the Giant Slayer.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, you're going to tackle each of these challenges and gain more confidence in yourself. The thing is, you're not going to overcome a single challenge in your life. All of us feel like we have this big, overbearing challenge that once we overcome it, we'll become permanently free from stress.
That's a lie.
It's a lie because you overcome that challenge, and guess what's right behind it? Another challenge.
Yeah, and one thing I like to emphasize in that zone is because I have a hard time when I'm on my butt for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Once I overcome that first challenge, I'm like, oh, I got over it. Oh no, it's not easy now. What the heck? You mean conquering one challenge in the past 6 months isn't gonna make the next challenge that much easier?
Right.
What? And that's where you do have to have patience. And I love this little quote I saw in a little I think it was a little gift card or something.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I prayed for flowers and God gave me rain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the exact same concept. It's like walking into the gym. Oh yeah, first time benching ever. I'm going to put up 225.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You got to put the time in over and over
Mhm.
and over and over. And that's why we love tracking growth, which
Yep.
kind of leads me into my next question. What are some good ways to track your growth to help kind of keep that momentum?
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a really hard answer to be specific on,
Yeah.
right? So because everybody's trying to achieve different goals, they're trying to achieve different things in their life. So obviously, how to track growth, right? If we take it as like an actual physical standpoint, right? It's really easy to just do the numbers, right? So say like I'm trying to lose 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well my growth is, have I lost 20 pounds yet? No.
Yeah.
Well, what do I need to adjust to get there? But I don't necessarily see growth as a single field in life, right? It's a vast garden of all we
Yeah.
love talking about gardens here, but it's a vast garden of everything. Like you've got to make sure the potatoes are growing. A little bit less work required there because they grow underground. But then you got to focus on your tomatoes. Make sure nothing's getting in there. You got to build up a fence around it to make sure that no wildlife's getting in. So ultimately, I think growth is based on fulfillment, how you feel, if you're happy, yada yada.
Okay. Yeah. And I do think that's actually a really powerful point to bring up. I was going to say, it's kind of like going to the gym. We say
Mhm.
garden and gym all the time now.
Yeah.
It's like a thing. Um, And when you go to the gym, right, and you're trying to track your growth, you don't just track what your bench is. Well, you shouldn't. You should track everything. You should track
Right.
what your squats are. You should track back day. You should track chest day. That way you can go, okay, yesterday I lifted this much. Tomorrow I'll be this much. If you're on a journey to lose 20 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be, okay, am I 4 pounds lighter? Am I a little heavier? You got to try to, and I'd say the hardest one to contextualize would be, in my personal opinion, religion. Because that's something that's a personal relationship between me and my spirituality and my relationship with God. So it's really difficult. But the way I track that is I try to just be more conscientious of, okay, today, did I feel more centered with peace? And that's where the fulfillment thing I fully agree with.
Right.
Did I feel more centered with peace and charisma and energy? And did I tackle the day or did I cower? And why? And
Right.
once you ask that why, that's where you can really start to go, okay, well, it's the same thing as if your diet's bad. You can tweak it in this way or that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, and then once you get to that point, right? Say that your goal is to lose 20 pounds. That's your Goliath, right?
Yes.
You conquer the Goliath. You lost your 20 pounds. Now what? Are you like, all right, I did it. I know I can. So now I'm just going to go eat junk food and quit working out again. Or no, you're like, all right, well, now maybe I just want to start putting up a little bit more weight in the gym. Or maybe I want to focus on my athleticism. Maybe I want to do a little bit more cardio. That's the next Goliath.
Yes.
And so that's what we were talking about earlier about how just because you conquer a single Goliath, you conquer a single challenge that has been so much weight on you, it doesn't mean that's where it ends.
Absolutely.
We
And sorry.
No, it's okay. We as human beings strive for growth. We strive for challenge. It's what drives us. It's what makes us stronger. It's what makes us happier. When we live in complacency and just set a lower standard for our lives, we become so miserable in that we end up just thinking that it's because of all of these challenges in life. When the challenges in life are the things that make us happy.
And I'll bring up this point because it was a potential topic for an episode, but I feel like this is kind of a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
Don't walk away or know when to walk away, but never settle. And this is a really important thing with growth because like he was talking about, right? You lose that 20 pounds. Now you're in a spot, and I've been in this spot. It is honestly so toxic where I know my body isn't where I want it to be or where it could be, but I know it's better than the average body based off of body fat, whatever. And I go, I don't have to be hitting the gym so hard. I'm
Right.
young. I have time.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly the corrosion that happens without you even
Yep.
realizing it. And you start to go, wait a minute, I'm settling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole walking away is when you start to realize there's an environment or a habit or whatever that's toxic. But that it's important to reemphasize the never settle because you can never give up. And those are the situations where it's like, okay, now I see my next Goliath, right? It's a bigger me. It's a
Yeah.
180-pound just shredded muscle man.
Yeah.
And that's my next Goliath. And so then you go out there and you realize what you're capable of. And then I feel like it's the second Goliath or third sometimes where you finally start to feel that momentum.
Yeah, and we talk about that in the episode of setting precedences.
Yes.
Right. So just understanding that challenges are there for you to just keep tackling, right? And the only people that don't have problems are dead. So be grateful that you have problems.
Absolutely. All right. So we can a lot of these we've already just naturally touched on. I
Yeah.
love that about our episodes. What do you do if you're not seeing any growth? You're either in a period of regression or you're in a period, and I know we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but just really get specific and as deep as you want with it, or as personal, whatever.
Yeah.
What do you do personally if you're not seeing any growth? What's like your go-to? Do you have a checklist? Do you
Yeah.
kind of like what's it like?
Absolutely. So when you're creating your goal, right, which is usually what you're trying to grow towards,
Mm-hmm.
you take a lot of time. Does it align with my core beliefs? Is this who I am as a person? Do I really want it? Why do I want it? Right? So you take the time, you analyze, you create a goal. When you're certain that goal is what you would like to accomplish, you start acting on it. You're taking your steps, you realize what's happening. You're like, okay, maybe I'm not growing as quickly as I want to. Maybe I'm falling behind, whatever it may be. But my advice is change your approach, never change the goal, right?
Okay. Yeah.
If you take the time, if there's a ton of conviction in who you want to become, if that's really what you want to attain, never give up your goal, always change your approach.
That's awesome. I want to just jump in real quick because I love analogies. And for anyone that flies airplanes or anyone that doesn't, so when you fly an instrument approach, it's when it's too cloudy to see regularly outside. And you have a whole procedure. There's a whole different type. There's different types that'll bring you down lower below the clouds based off of the safety ramifications of these systems. And that is the exact same thing. If you come in and you don't clear the clouds, it is time to change the approach. It is time to use one of your other approaches that you've practiced and you've worked on, and it's a foundation of your flying, and it's to get you to the airport. The last thing you want to do is change that airport, which a lot of people, that's what they'll do immediately. And you at least have to try, because if you continue to try, now it's time to analyze, why isn't this working out?
Right.
Maybe it is the wrong airport. Maybe you're not supposed to be there right now for reasons you don't even know yet.
Right. I like that.
So that's awesome. We'll move on to the next one. Okay. How do you help someone around you grow? Loved ones, friends, or just a stranger down the street? And that probably different approaches depending on who it is. But in general, you notice someone in your circle, someone you care about deeply.
Yeah.
And maybe you struggle with this, maybe you don't. But like, what's a few good ways that you generally kind of help people reach their potential or start to be on the growth trend?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one's tough, right?
Yeah.
Because if somebody doesn't want to change, they won't change. Right, supposedly. Now, Tony Robbins found a way to do it, but we're not Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
So he does something called the Dickens process, which takes forever. And you're not going to do that with your loved ones.
Well, and real quick, just to credit us a little bit.
Yeah.
Tony does say that his only audience is people that either want to change because of drive or want to change because of pain.
Right.
He does say that if you're not either of those, then he's likely not, his stuff isn't going to help you. So I do want to preface that.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So anyway, now the thing is, the most you can do really is sit down, have a chat with them, and just say, "Listen, I'm here for you. I'm willing to help you. What can I do to help you grow? Can I be your accountability partner? Can I just be an ear for you to, I don't even need to respond. Just sit and tell me what's going on. I'm not going to judge you. But otherwise, here are my tools that I'll provide for you. If you would like to take the steps forward, I'm here for you."
Do you ever fear that they're going to take that from a place of judgment? And then do you feel like it's your responsibility to make sure they know it's not? Or do you think it's their responsibility to kind of realize maybe this is a little judgment and maybe it's a little healthy for them?
Well, we were all teenagers once, right?
Yeah.
And mom or dad set you down and said, "Hey, this is what you're doing right now, and this is where it's going to lead you." And maybe some people didn't explore, stuff like that, but ultimately, whether it's a close one, or a friend or a loved one, it's out of place of love. And if they don't understand that, they don't understand that. I think it's really important that if you're going to have that conversation with somebody, that deep conversation of, "Listen, I care about you. I want what's best for you. This is why I'm talking to you." If they don't understand that, and the thing is, they will understand that it's out of love, right? If they're actually
they better, or else you have a different problem.
Yeah, right. Or else you have a different problem. But ultimately, if you're worried about that fear or the judgment that they might feel from you, or they're going to pull away from you because of that, it's just going to hinder your ability to be able to help them.
And that's absolutely correct. I fully agree with that. And on top of that, I'd like to add, and this is just more for the passive people out there listening, stand firm. Stand firm. Don't waver, don't cower, and it's so much easier to say it than when you're in that room talking to the person that you're trying to help out, because as soon as they look at you, it's so easy to just want to diverge, talk about something else, or downplay how severe it is or how much you care.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you really do have to look at it as, do I want to be the best possible friend? Because I've been in those situations where I'm not growing, I'm not moving, nothing's changing. I've been stuck, and sometimes I do get defensive. My ego feels shattered and broken, and my identity is in question. And so when someone else questions me, I'm like, it's more of like is that obvious? Is it that obvious? And then I freak out, and then I get mad at them, which is incorrect way to respond. And so you got to stay firm, because I wish someone could have been that firm with me. Instead it was, "Hey man, is this okay?" And I would get mad, and then because I was insecure about it, and then I'd reflect on it and be like, "Okay, wait, they're right. I need to fix this." And then I go back and talk to them and be like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I freaked out on you." And so it's important to stand firm. Don't enable them to continue their lack of growth by not standing firm.
Yeah, and then another little subtopic here I just want to go into is ultimately, sometimes people in your life just don't want to change.
Yeah.
Right. And I've been there, man. I've poured my heart and soul into a lot of people in my life that I wanted. They were just struggling. They were struggling, and I put a lot of energy, a lot of time into trying to grow them, trying to make them stronger, trying to give them the confidence to be able to put their best foot forward. And ultimately, they just didn't want to, right? And that took a lot out of me. And I said, is it just, is it me? Am
Yeah.
I the
Yeah.
reason why you
Right.
don't want, like, am I not enough for you to be able to put your best foot forward? But then you
Mm-hmm.
realize that nothing would have done it. So
Yeah.
don't value their growth based on your own self worth.
No, that is beautiful because that kind of also goes into my next one, which is when you're surrounded by people that feel like they're
Hmm.
stunting your growth.
Yeah.
How to deal with that. But that is beautiful because it at the end of the day, right? You do have to realize there's nothing. Even if you're a Christian, right? And you
Hmm.
believe that there's a God that controls everything in a sense and looks over everything. Even to that point, you still have, they believe and we believe that you still have free will.
Hmm.
And it's so painful
Yeah.
because it's like a little kid, right? Your little kid keeps touching the stove and you're like, don't do that. And you start getting angry because you don't understand. They get hurt more and more
Right.
each time.
Yeah.
And there comes a point where you realize there's no words that I can say. There's actions I
Yeah.
can take to physically stop them, which isn't
Hmm.
always the right thing either.
Right.
But at a certain point, they're going to realize, even if it's 1,000 times and their hand is way more burned up than it had to be,
Hmm.
that they'll go, okay, if I touch this, it's hot. And as soon as they accept that as a fact, and it's not out of defiance, it's not out of whatever misconception,
Right.
rationalization, justification they have for it, as soon as you're out of that zone of thought, they'll start thinking clearly and thinking smarter and go, okay, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't touch the stove, it's hot.
Right. Because when you're in a state of high emotions, you're never gonna. Well, some people, right? Most people will never be thinking clearly in
Yeah.
that situation.
Well, I would argue all people are thinking less clearly.
Hmm.
And that's not always a bad thing, right? Because at least for me personally, sometimes I need blinders on, which
Right.
I wouldn't describe that as thinking more clearly. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Right.
Because you get that tunnel vision, but that's usually attached to emotions. So
Right.
so I would
Absolutely.
say at all times you're thinking less clearly with less or more clearly with less emotions.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I do think that's an awesome statement. But
Yeah.
yeah, just a couple more questions left here. We'll make them relatively fast because we know this is a long series here. Um, so what do you do if people around you are stunting your growth?
Yeah. Well, ultimately, everyone's a human being,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's growing at their own pace. Everyone's doing their own thing in life. They're on their own journey. So it depends on who it is, right?
Okay.
In a career, workplace, right? Ultimately, I'm going to look for a change of environment for work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
Because that's easy. That's a simple one. Relationships are hard.
Yeah.
Friendships, significant other, husband, wife, whatever it may be, family, right? No matter what it is, it's really important to let the other person know that same thing, right? Like, hey, I'm proud of who you are. You're on your own journey. You're doing it. But I just need a little bit of fresh air, right? I need to become who I need to be, and try to avoid the whole you're like a wet blanket. You're weighing me
Yeah.
down, because there's a lot of anger in that. But after you say those things, you can't take them back,
Absolutely.
and then that's all the relationship is, right? So if I was like, Caleb, man, this isn't true, by the way. I'm just gonna
Uh
preface
oh.
with that. I'll be like, Caleb, man, I feel like I'm just trying to grow too quick, and you're on your own journey, but you're weighing me down, right? Every time I'm around you, I just feel drained. I'm so sad, and I just need a better person in my life. You'd be like, dude, are you serious? And
Yeah.
then that's all you think about moving forward with every interaction, even if it's not just me, right? And the next
Right.
time we see each other, it's like, what's up, dude? Are you tired now? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
in my aura. Like, what's going on here?
Right. And I think it's kind of like I don't know. It's like if you because the rings of a tree can tell how much rain there was, right?
Right.
And when you have words like that, the more the tree grows with those words sitting on their mind, especially if it's in some sort of duo,
Mm-hmm.
team, relationship dynamic, the more the tree grows with those words, the more it becomes a part of its foundation. Because as a
Right.
tree grows, it grows outward. So the rings go in, I believe. I'm not a biologist, so I don't think go one way. It's in or out.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, the point is, the longer you build off that, the more it becomes a foundational piece. And so now, and this has happened between me and a close friend, a really close friend, where I was opening up to him, not this guy, but I was opening up to him, and I was called a mediocre thinker.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that more personally than I should have.
Right.
But either way, now whenever I try to get into deep discussion with this guy, that comes into my mind at some point.
Right.
It's like, oh, this guy thinks I'm a mediocre thinker, so there's no way we could really,
Right.
grow from this
Yeah.
together. And I think that's important too. Is it's important that if the people around you are stunting your growth, first of all, as we're talking about how to help people grow, start there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Start to be the one to step up. And if you got roommates or you're in a frat that, like, I don't know, you want everyone kind of angled more towards goals and whatever, or whatever it is, you're in a relationship and you guys are trying to grow, know that it's going to take a lot of hard work, a
Yep.
lot, because I feel like people forget how much love is work.
Dude, so
Seriously.
much. Yeah.
And so that's an important part of growing there. And then secondly, make sure that they're prepared,
Mm-hmm.
communicate clearly where you're at and where you'd like to be, and see where they're at and where they'd like to be. Because a lot of times we do assume, right?
Mm-hmm.
We assume everyone in our environment is not helping, right? You get home from work and your roommates are all gaming, but you didn't see the 6 hours of business planning, or you
Right.
don't know what shifts they
Right.
work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You don't see the little things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try to concisely and clearly discuss before you make any assumptions.
Yeah. Absolutely. So.
All right. So now I just have a couple more, I promise. How has the word growth changed for you in the last 5 years? Or if that's too difficult or like kind of a weird question, how much have you grown in the last 5 years?
Yeah. So I've grown a ton in the last few years. And what I used to see it as is like, how much money do I have? It's like the
Yeah.
the big three, like how beautiful is my wife? How much money do I have? Do I have a six pack?
Yeah.
Right?
The
And
thing
that's
that
like
people chase relentlessly.
yeah, and that's like where your mind is, right? When you're younger and you're starting to grow up and you're starting to develop into adulthood, and then you realize you see the world. You see the world around you and you're like, what is this? Like, why is everyone
Yeah.
so mean to each other? Why is everyone so selfish? All these things. So the new question is, how good of a person am I? What can I provide for others? Am I taking care of people?
Absolutely.
Am I safe for them? Right? Like, can I add value to your life and make you a better person along with it? Can we make the world a better place one person at a time?
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And I really think, right, growth used to be such a positive word
Mm-hmm.
forever, especially with this show.
Yeah.
But even though we have this show, there have been points in my life where growth is the most derogatory sounding word that I could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's painful. It's because it's day in, day out. It's day to day.
Yeah. Day to
Um,
day.
But genuinely though, people don't understand that it's a necessity.
Yeah.
You got
It's
to
like
keep.
breathing.
And
Right.
and I do think that that's people get so wrapped up, and I feel like it's because of a lot of bad situations or circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's the repetition of these circumstances and problems over and over, and it's easier to blame the world and get a more self-centered approach than it is to work on yourself and
Mhm.
grow. And so I think that's why there's so many negative outlooks out there.
Right.
And I don't even think that it's necessarily on purpose, right? I don't think there's
No, not
many
at all.
people that go, I'm going to be a Squidward,
Right.
or just a grouchy person
Yeah.
who hates life. It's more of, man, I keep trying and I just keep getting knocked down. Is it me or life? And
Mhm.
eventually, a lot of people will start to go, that's just life.
Yeah. And that's true. That's absolutely true. It's just life. So it's up to us to remind people that we can be better than life.
Yes. And
Right.
I do think that a fundamental piece of growing is if you sometimes you have to knock it down to build it up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need the demolition crew in there. Throwback to reconstruction. I don't remember the episode number. I want to say 31. Gonna have to go back and check how
It was
close
not
it is.
31. I can
No,
tell you that
was
right
it
now.
23 or something?
I don't know. I
I
just
don't know.
know
It was around
wasn't
Christmas
31.
time. I just remember that.
Yeah.
One of our first years ever, first Christmases with the
You
show.
guys will never find episode 31. Actually, it's on Spotify.
Oh, my
Yeah.
bad. My bad. That's that episode.
Yeah.
It's got to be like around that time though. It's
Mhm.
close. It is
Yeah.
close. It's like late 20s. I think it's 28 actually.
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay. So, let's see. So, one last question. It's the
Mhm.
most personal of the episode, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
'Kay.
What's your pressure point with growth? Or in other words, what's a weakness you seem to experience that tends to, whether it's an emotion, a situation,
Yeah.
the way you view things, whatever it is, what's like a pressure point that helps stop or stunt your growth? Do you have one that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I do. So there's very little thought. I might come up with a better answer
Yeah.
later and be
And
upset.
I can start with it too if you'd like.
It's fine. But one thing is just self-respect, right? Understanding that some things just might not be worth chasing, right? Sometimes it's important to understand that you add value, no matter where you are, right?
Okay.
You're a good dude. you care about people, and whether it's career, relationship, friendship, whatever it may be, um, understand that it's there's so much self-worth in you that you need to protect, right?
Yeah.
Self-respect, and you just gotta hold on to it, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I would say my personal pressure point, and self-respect is a really good one. I didn't even think about that. I usually tend to say it's complacency, right? It's finally getting to this point where I can kind of coast down the hill, and then as that next hill starts, I don't want to start pedaling because my legs are still a little tired,
Right.
and I'm still like, oh man, I'm doing great. I'm ahead of the other people that I'm with, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hill starts to slow down the bike, and then I go back down the hill, and then I have to restart over and over
Mm-hmm.
and over and over and over and over and over. But honestly, I would say it's confidence. I would say confidence is one of my biggest pressure because it starts off as I'm going up the hill, the first hill, right? I'm
Yeah.
going up and I have all this confidence. I know what I'm capable of. I know that I've climbed bigger hills than what's ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I get to the top of the hill, it was a little more of a struggle than I expected because I'm
Right.
a little more out of shape or whatever the reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm at the top of the hill and my confidence is at a peak,
Right.
right? And then I try to just ride this confidence. And I heard Robert Downey Jr. say on the Joe Rogan show like 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
confidence is like the wind. Sometimes it's to your back and it can lift you across the ocean, or sometimes it's like it's not with you and there's
Mm-hmm.
no wind, or it's in the opposite direction. And
Right.
so it's kind of like a more what's the word, a dynamic thing, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Right.
But I would try to hold on to this confidence, and if you have confidence with no action to back it while you're coasting down the hill,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hit a point where confidence starts turning into other things like overconfidence or ego because
Right.
it's crumbling beneath, but you're still trying to hold on to the pretty parts of it
Yeah.
and show everyone that you have this confidence. And so then once I can admit to myself, dude, I'm not confident, it's
Mhm.
already been a problem.
Yeah.
So then I feel extra shattered, and then I have to try to rebuild that confidence. And I feel like you have to do things with confidence.
Yeah.
If it's podcasting, if it's lifting, if it's anything that's beneficial, if you don't do it with confidence and have that faith below that confidence to
Mhm.
back it up, it's just going to crumble over and over and over. And that's a lesson that I've had to teach myself
Right.
over and over and over again.
Right. And so I want to say, with that perspective, to succeed in your
Yeah.
effort, right, you need to do it with confidence. But ultimately, the best way to build up confidence is to do it scared,
Yes.
fail, fall down, and readjust.
Absolutely.
Change your approach, figure out what's going on, build that confidence, and now you're able to do the task with confidence, and you're able to succeed.
100%. And I feel like the reason I brought this up is because I wanted to be able to discuss the growth aspect. And what that's been for me is when I fall, right? First of all, everyone anticipates a fall,
Mhm.
right? Whether you're riding a bike, eventually you're going to fall. They say if you play with fire too long, you'll get burnt.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where once that fall actually happens, right? It's important in those moments. For me personally, and I think for a lot of people out there, if you take a second and you go, that wasn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like my butt's scraped or my knee's
Yeah.
bleeding, but I'm alive. There's no
Yeah.
bones broken. And even if
If
there
anything,
is, you know,
it was
if
a
you
little
have
fun.
a pulse,
Yeah.
you know, it's good to be able to realize the fall wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
And now I can go into this next one with less confidence, and I can prove to myself that I can still tackle this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's talking to one stranger or that's, you know, going full Impractical Jokers mode and yelling from the bathroom that you need toilet paper, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, you know, if it pushes you and it forces you to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and if it especially makes you uncomfortable, you'll grow.
Absolutely. Amen. So, anyway, do you have anything you would like to add to the second part of the 3-part series?
Well, guys, we decided to potentially drop it in this episode. If you're wanting to skip to the end of the episodes, we potentially dropped the big news in this episode, so
Mhm.
you got to go back and watch all of it.
Yeah.
I think that was a great episode. I feel like we were right to the point.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy, guys. Just keep going, okay? Because where I was talking about tracking your growth, right? Take progress pics, okay? I hate taking selfless pictures of my, or shirtless,
Mhm.
selfless. That's hilarious. Shirtless pictures of myself because I don't want people seeing it in my camera roll when I'm trying to show them
Mhm.
something. It's a
Yeah.
little awkward,
Yeah.
but get over it. Get over it. You know, you need to be able to see 2 months ago to now. Whoa, I look like a whole
Yeah.
new being.
Right. Because you
And
won't notice it if you don't.
You won't
Yeah.
notice it.
That's true. And that's like everything in life, is you won't notice it until you do. And then you do, and you're like, wait, my efforts were actually worth something.
Yes.
I should have been happier in the journey.
And
right?
I actually, and I recommend this. We've recommended throughout the show. I'm gonna start journaling a lot more.
Mhm.
I want to just kind of try to capture patterns among days that I'm happier versus not as happy, productive or less productive. And I want to see if I can notice a difference in the writing, the amounts written, whatever it is. I want
Mhm.
to start really trying to shift incrementally, degree by degree, to continue to grow, because that's another one last thing on growth. That's
Mhm.
another easy thing is once you've conquered something and you've mastered it, it's easier to feel like you're not growing anymore or there's no room for you to grow.
Yeah.
It's the little shifts,
Absolutely.
little by little.
Yep. Don't have to overhaul your life overnight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Brick by brick. That's it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys. If you made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share us with a friend. Comment Caleb's name, spell it backwards. We'll understand it. What would that be?
Well, no, you guys are the real ones.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Belek.
being here every time for us. I don't think we have any 0 view videos.
No. Yeah, thank you guys for showing up time and time again. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for subscribing. We just hit 1,800.
Yeah.
We did hit 1,800, then we dumped, and then
Yeah.
we're back up above it again.
Yep.
So, anyway, on the way to 2K.
2K.
Yeah, and I was just about to, we're gonna give away $2,000.
Whoa.
No. Don't hold me to that. You can hold Caleb to that. Anyway,
I think
I'll
we should now.
yeah, appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Peace.